Hi everyone, and welcome to another speedrun video. I say speedrun, I'm playing 5 minutes, and I started at the lowest rating, and I'm trying to show you the typical things you need to think about to improve in rating boundaries. We now got up to 1430 rating, so we're slowly getting there, and I'm also going to pick up on typical mistakes that my opponents might play. I am trying out lots of different openings, just because I think it'll give you a broader range, but it's the same principles which are important. Okay, now one of my favourite openings that I'm playing now is this bizarre looking move, which is bishop e2. And like anything, if you play a move, you've got to have a plan in mind. And this bishop is not very well placed here, but the idea is to set up with this pawn structure, which is a very nice pawn structure. Now, again, a lot of players at this rating round, range, they play unnecessary pawn moves. And what's the point of this? I mean, if my opponent wanted to play b5, he didn't need to play a6. So I'm going to continue with my setup, and my plan is to bring the knight out, castle kingside, and then see what my opponent's going to do. Okay, he's played a check. Why has he put the queen over there? I have no idea. He's losing more time. So now I'm going to develop more pieces, continue with my plan, and already I'm castling, and he's only got one piece developed. Okay, so now we need to think of the next stage of what I might want to do here. Well, I think an interesting idea, normally the queen is quite well placed around here actually, and also that allows the knight to come back to d1. For example, my knight can come to c3, but after b4, where does it go? And the queen here has chances to come over here. So all these ideas, this is not a theory position, but it shows you that when you play any opening, even if it is a rare opening, such as this, that it's very important to, and I'm going to play this now because it's a nice square if it gets attacked, it's just very important to know the ideas behind the moves you're playing. So why are you playing these moves? And my opponent's playing pretty well now. And I think here, I'm going to move forwards and attack that knight, gaining a tempo. And we have fairly even position, but again, this is a non-theoretical position, but you need to know the ideas with the opening and middle game. And I know, for example, ideas here would be some point to bring this knight back here, some point play g4 and bring my queen over to the king side. I have the f5 break later on to make advancements there. Maybe I can play c3 and d4 to take more control of the center, or even d4. I'm going to, first of all here, play a4, and the point of this is, I'm asking this pawn the question, and if he captures, he ruins his pawn structure. If he pushes forwards, my knight comes back to this square, and my knight can also, in this opening, it's a reverse Dutch, the knight is very good on f2. Later on, it controls a lot of squares. It can come over here to start an attack. And now that he's played this, he has got a very good bishop, and he's got a nice square for his knight. But he has also given up these two squares, which I can move my knight into. But first of all, I'm thinking, what's his plan? And I think he wants to move his knight here. So I was quite tempted to play a5 to stop that, but then that pawn becomes very weak. So I'm actually going to now play knight to g5. And it's not necessarily an aggressive move, but it has two ideas. And the first idea is to play bishop f3, which I'm just wondering if I can play now. And I think I can, to get rid of this, his most active piece. I'm trying to get rid of his most active piece. Did I have a sacrifice there? Well, it was only one check. The king would have come to e7. And my next idea is to get the knight back to a nice square. So I think my opponent's playing quite well after losing a bit of time at the start of the game, and I'm now going to move this knight into the center. And what am I planning next? Well, I'd like to get these pieces to better squares. This knight, I'd love to get to this square here because that's a real outpost. So maybe I can go b3 and try to get the knight there. All I'm thinking about here, I'm not thinking about tactics, and you've probably noticed this in the games I've played throughout this series. I mean, the problem with b3 is it does weaken c3, and he might be able to get his knight in like this. But I think it's worth the risk. And probably, I mean, what you notice in this speed run, all the videos up to this point, I'm just playing very simple ideas. Even if it's not theoretical, I know what I should be trying to do. And I'm just trying to find weakened squares. I'm trying to work out if I have time to get my pieces to the best squares. I'm thinking about what my opponent's trying to do. He's now coming up with a good plan, except for one big problem here. And this is, again, a typical error, a real lack of danger that my opponent is showing here. His king is in the middle, my knight is very viciously placed. You can probably see the move here, and well, this is actually checkmate, and he's walked straight into that move there. So quick win, 17 moves, and again, not really much happened there, except I waited for the mistake and I pounced on it. And I think there were a couple of little errors my opponent played, like a6. Why play this move? It's unnecessary. Never play unnecessary pawn moves. This queen check, quite interesting because it forces this move, but I don't think it's worth it for the lack of time. And the other thing which I think won the game for me was just my little understanding of, if you're going to play a certain opening, even very rare openings, for example bishop e2, and this is a chessball course that I've done, the British Grand Prix, and even if you're going to play these very rare openings, as long as you know what you're trying to do, pretty much any opening is okay. So you've got to know the ideas behind the opening you're trying to achieve. So let's get another game in, and our rating is nicely going up. Now we're playing a 1600, so we can expect a tougher game here. And an opening I haven't tried out for a while is a King's Indian Defence, but I play this myself and I really enjoy playing it. Or maybe the Budapest. The problem with the Budapest is I think it's a very interesting opening, but you can't do it if they don't play c4. So if they play any other move, you can't really go e5. So I think we'll stick to our original plan of playing the King's Indian Defence, an opening favoured by Bobby Fischer, Garry Kasparov, and Rajabov when he wants to play chess and not have a quick draw. Wish he did that more often. So the general idea again of this opening, first of all, you play the bishop here, you castle, and you play d6. So this is stage one. The pawn on d6 is very useful. Stage one, and we have to look at how our opponent's set up. Our opponent's gone for a more positional idea, and what I do here generally, I know that Mikhail Tal won a very nice game with knight bd7 and e5 against Botvinnik, become world champion. But I generally put my knight here. Still just trying to develop my pieces. I know where they should go. If it gets attacked, my knight can actually come over here. But I still think this pawn push in the middle is a good move. Now my opponent has stopped the bishop coming here. That's interesting. And I'm now thinking that's not an unnecessary pawn move because it stops an idea which I was going to play next. But I'm also thinking he hasn't developed a piece. So maybe now I can play this move anyway. And he's closed the position down. I'm quite happy to see that, because now when the position is locked in the middle, plans become a lot slower because it's much harder to open things up. And the general plan is attack on the king side. And my opponent has played, I feel, two bad moves now. This move I don't think he had to play. He should have kept the tension in the middle. Better to keep the tension. Why push that pawn? He didn't need to. It might have been better to capture. So I would have just developed peace. And the second move is he's moved a pawn in front of his king, and his king to me is now looking much weaker. A sacrifice here looks a little bit suspect, but the normal idea in the King's Indian Defence is to play f5. And I'm going to move my knight now back because I know again the normal ideas in this opening without much calculation, and I'm going to aim for this pawn push, and I feel it's going to be stronger with his pawn here. Now, one thing you've got to bear in mind when you play this is, are you worried about his knight trying to come into this square? So let's have a think. Here, knight here, and he's trying to come into this square. I don't know if I want to allow that. So I could go h6 first, but it seems also here. Okay, but he has to take my pawn, right? Because otherwise I'm going to take him. Already he weakened himself. I will take here. His knight comes here. I've got knight g6. His knight comes in, and I've got. Okay, I don't want to waste the time with an unnecessary pawn move unless I have to. I'm going to try and start initiative on the king side immediately. And the thing is, I should always have the advantage on the king side because I've got these two strong pawns. Now again, whenever you play a move, have a reason. What is the reason behind that move? Is he going to go c5? It's not even doing anything. This looks like a waste of time in a critical position. And here, he's also not looking at my last move. I mean, maybe he's trying to take here, but I don't really believe it. I mean, let's just say I go b6 first. He's moved his queen to the other side of the board. And, okay, so he is trying to close it down over here. But now I should be able to use these pawns. Got to move a bit quicker now. My time I have spent. So I'm gonna use these pawns, push his knight back to a bad square. I maybe shouldn't have moved my knight here. This knight doesn't look great, but I still like my position. My knights, though, they don't have good squares, so I'm trying to think, how can we get them to better squares? Over this way? Okay, I need to get my bishop out of the way. Let's move the bishop there and get my knight nearer to my opponent's king, because again, I'm just trying to improve my pieces. This knight doesn't have many squares to go, but this knight seems, I'm going to take on pass on a course here, open up his king. I can't keep it closed there. This knight seems to maybe have some ideas of jumping in over on the king side, so hence why I've moved it over this way. Okay, so here he's opening up the area of the board where he's weakest, the king side, so that's very risky of him. And I'm going to, do I have to take here first, or okay, I'm just going to go here. I'm going to move quicker. That's the one thing, obviously, when you're explaining things, the 5 minute goes very quickly, but I've got a lovely position. My pieces are much more dynamically placed. I'm threatening things like this. I moved the bishop here because I want to collect my rooks. He's opened up the area of the board where he's weakest, the king side. My king looks very safe. His king doesn't. My knight here has certainly improved matters. Now, I think I'm just going to come in with a check now. If the knight goes there, he could have gone rook takes rook. So I'm just going to now try to start the final attack in this position. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5, 6 pieces attacking. Okay, so we're going to come here. His queen is offside. His queen would like to be in the center. His queen is not helping. And I'm just bringing all my pieces in now. And to me, this looks like it should be a devastating and final attack. Well, I could take this one with check. And I've just got to make sure I don't do anything ridiculously stupid here. This should be completely winning. So let's bring the big guy in, the queen. And it's funny how quickly his position has completely collapsed. Bishop f5 is simple, but can we do it by sacrificing the queen? There's no point. Simple is good. I'm threatening just to win this one. He has to move his knight to defend it. This one is going to lead to a very nice checkmate with this coming here and queen takes c2 next. So my opponent playing a little bit too sharp there. And we'll just have a look at the typical errors that he made. And first of all, it's important, again, I'm switching openings, but I have been playing chess for, I don't know, like 35 years at competitive level, and I've been learning all that time, constantly trying to learn. So I know most openings what you should be doing. This is stage one, and I know in the King's in Defense the general ideas. The general idea is I like playing for e5. So the way I played this is, okay, I bring my knight out to support this one. I know he can attack it, and my opponent now plays a little slow move. This is a bit slow. It's a bit unusual. Had he not played this, I might not have gone e5, but he didn't develop a piece. So now I think I should be opening up the middle or offering it. And now he plays another move, which I'm not sure about. Our top players try to keep the tension in the middle. And by going here, he closes the pawn structure, and he gives me a very simple plan of attacking with 2 pawns. I think he should maybe try to keep the d file open here, or at least just develop a piece. So my knight comes back, and now he plays another move, which I really don't think is a good move. Be very careful moving pawns in front of your king, and we even see later on this might have been the critical error. It gives me a target to latch onto, and the king side is normally my control, and I get this move in. And then if we go on a little bit further, this move not very good. He did play a good move here, trying to close it down, but I think now it was key because the pawn structure is locked. It's all about timing chess. Do you have time to maneuver your pieces, or should you be doing more immediate stuff? And you have to work this out. But in structures like this, where it's called a closed position, you have more time to do slow maneuvers because there's less immediate danger. And here, I'm generally just thinking, well, nothing's going to happen quickly, so I need to get my pieces the best squares. I've got a very nice pawn center, but where are my knights going? This knight can't go anywhere. I'm not happy with that knight. and this knight, it can't go anywhere, and I'm trying to find somewhere better, and I suddenly realised the knight over here could be very good because later on it can jump in. So I just arranged that maneuver, realising that my opponent doesn't really have much he can do. He doesn't have much counterplay. So now I just improve this knight. Now here, of course, I can't lose the bishop, and I want to keep his king open, and we can see that my knight has already made a great deal of progress. Now he plays another move which looks very suspect here. Now I could have taken straight away, but another thing I'm thinking about is what's he going to do next? And I'm thinking, well, he's probably going to take there, and when my knight captures, I will gain a lot of tempo rather than taking his pawn. So I'm waiting for him to make a mistake. At the same time, I'm improving my position. He does indeed make a mistake, and now my pieces are tremendous. He's probably completely lost here. And after this move, well, I give a check. His king is now very weak, and all you have to do is look at my knights, both my knights, even though they're on the edge, creating devastating attack, and he's completely lost now because every single piece of mine is attacking, and he hasn't got any harmony in his positions. So he did just those little errors. Again, I didn't calculate much. Very simple play to get a winning position. Okay, right, so we're going to go back to the Chessbrah of London. So this is d4, knight c3, bishop f4, stage 1, because I think it's a very nice opening at this rating range around here to learn, because it's very simple. You don't have to learn a vast amount of theory. So this is stage 1. We just developed the knight and we developed the bishop to this square, stage 1 of the Chessbrah of London. Now we wait and see what our opponent plays, and he plays one of the better moves, the bishop coming out here. And the next stage in the Chessbrah of London is generally to play the pawn here and try to work out where you can develop these pieces. Now this move, my opponent clearly knows what he's doing, is creating some threats, and here I'm going to bring this knight to e2. He's playing one of the better lines here, definitely, one of the best lines, but I'm just stopping the threats. And in this position, I think in my course, again, my memory is not that great. I mean, I'm still a Grandmaster. I wish I had a better memory nowadays, but there's only so much I can get in my mind. But one thing I'm very good at knowing is the ideas. And here, knight takes looks very sensible. But I'm going to go pawn takes. And I think this is something I recommended in my Chessbrah of London course, because it gives me a little bit more control to centre. And I want my knight here. I'm going to kick his bishop away. I don't like pieces my own half. When I get a chance to kick it, I will kick it. Okay, so now, do I kick it again? Why not? Let's kick it again. He's got to come back. And now, yeah, okay. So I've got to develop these guys. This is true. So I need to get this knight out the way to develop my bishop. So I'm moving this knight here. Okay, and he's playing very well actually. I missed this move with a double threat, and I would like to have one more tempo, but I don't, so I'm going to have to come back now. This looks like a little bit clumsy, doesn't it? I wouldn't have played this move had I seen the queen coming here. Okay, so now he's attacking this one, but the thing is, my pawns are very nice. So even though my pieces are pretty shockingly horrible, my pawns are very solid. They're all defending each other, and his bishop is really bad piece in the long run because it's just staring at that pawn. Can he ever get that? He wants it on the outside of that pawn. It's not ever going to do anything. So piece-wise, I feel my position has a lot more long-term potential than his if I can just get my pieces arranged here. So the key thing is I need to get these arranged and castle. So how am I going to do that? So I need to move this knight, but I can't lose this pawn. So I need to defend the pawn, and then I need to move the knight. Where would the knight be best placed? Remember, you have to think long term. Well, I really like the idea of coming to c1, then to d3, and into the middle, because this is the ideal square. So I'm going to go queen d2 with the idea of moving the knight, and eventually moving this knight into that beautiful central square. My opponent's played a very quiet move. He's going wrong here. He's got to play with more dynamism than this. Because as soon as... Okay, so I'm starting my maneuver. This also allows my bishop to come out and to castle. And now he's maybe getting his knight to a better square. This seems like a better plan. Is he coming this way potentially? Okay, well, you know what? I do like the idea of bringing my knight in, but I've also got to develop my bishop. And I can just put my knight back here. Now I've got my bishop out because he's not doing anything. I was seeing where his knight was going. He was clearly bringing it here. and now my knight can come back. And yes, it looks like I've lost a lot of moves, but my pawns are stopping any of his breaks. See, he's not really doing anything. Okay, he's trying to come here, clearly. Now, not a bad move again, actually. I don't really want to give my bishop up. I mean, I can go knight here, but then what happens if the queen comes in? This is the issue. So do I have to take here? I can. Okay, his only idea, I'm looking what he's doing to do this. So maybe what I need to do is come back and just defend it with the pawn. And if I had come forwards, my knight was in a bit of trouble after the queen coming there. So I'm just defending it. And now if I get my knight here, I can castle. Now, if I was black here, I'd be trying to play e5 here. If he plays e5, he might have to sacrifice a piece. But something like that, he needs to do something quite quickly. Because I think if I get knight here and get this knight like into e5, or if I get knight here and castle, I've got this space advantage and he has no pawn breaks. Even a5 would have been a good move there, but not this one. So now I'm going to get my knight here. a5, he should be trying to play, but now I can castle, and if he takes on b4, I take with my a pawn and my rook is defended. So he should have played this last move, because now I can castle, make sure there's no sacrifices here, shouldn't be. And now I want to take with my a pawn. Why do I want to take with my a pawn? Because if I take with my c pawn, then I make my structure worse. You don't want to, don't give away even the slightest, even the slightest little thing that makes your position worse. Avoid doing. Okay, so he's going for the play on the a file, but his bishops are very bad because it's a closed position. So now I'm going to start to maneuver, and this square is certainly a square where I want to play on. So I'm going to force his queen backwards. Now h4, h5 would be my next step to try and force the knight back. But am I concerned about this move? I don't think so, because he's only attacking with his queen, and I can go knight h2 and king here. So I'm not actually scared about that. So I'm going to play h4 because I want to push his pieces backwards, gain space, and now this move I'm kind of happy to see. I guess I come forwards, but also bishop takes here at some point. You know what? I'm not gonna rush at going in. I'm gonna try to come this way, because that move looks like a big weakness. Okay, but I've got to move quicker. So we're gonna have a position where it's potentially knights versus bishops, but it's a closed position, and this is one position where my knights might be better. Why am I doing that? Because I want this knight maneuvering. It's a block position. It's about maneuvering. I want this knight to come to d3. Why do I want it there? Because I want to get my pieces now to the best squares I can. So I'm trying to maneuver as skillfully as I can and play against his pieces. This knight coming here, pressure. This knight in the middle, very nice square. So I'm just trying to get my pieces to those squares. I think I'm going to take this one. You can see how my knights are pretty much dominating my opponent's bishops here. So I'm going to go here, and only a small advantage, but it's a very nagging advantage I have. Well, he's blundered a piece. He hasn't used his time. I mean, my position looked very nice because his bishop, this is one case the bishops are not good, but he's blundered a piece after playing actually a very good game up to this point. But saying that, you can see how my knights would be dominating those bishops anyway, really leading to a major advantage. And here, well, I mean, he's trying to fight on, but what can I do? Well, I mean, if he goes f6, I take here. There's nothing to worry about. My king has lots of escape squares, and I'm just going to start mopping up. I don't really want to take that with a knight. I quite like blocking this one, and now I'm going to take this way because my queen has access into the position, so I can start targeting it. Okay, he's trying to get a check in. I'm just going to move my king away from that. I'm looking constantly what my opponent's trying to do, and I'm playing moves to try and make those a bit uncomfortable, because if your opponent, imagine if you see a plan, your opponent keeps stopping it. It's extremely frustrating. Okay, now I'm going to make a break in the center, and the reason for this is, well, just look, I've got the e file. My rook is going to be very active. I'm going to move my queen in behind that. I've also now got pressure against this one because I'm breaking down the defense of his king. So my queen is either going to come straight in, threatening that one, or I'm going to come in behind. I think this way. Let's come straight in. These pieces doing nothing over here. I'm now going to win that queen. This is the other idea of my queen coming into that square. I'm going to win his rook. I'm going to win bloody everything at this rate. And, well, this is completely collapsing for my opponent. I might even take his rook here because of the mating threats to his king. Because if he takes to the queen, I take here. And, I mean, and this will lead to checkmate. If he takes to the king, I take his queen. Obviously, this is extremely easy. I can even pre-move this one. And my king can just come straight into the show. Let's just be careful of the stalemates, of course. Let's leave his king these two squares so he can't stalemate. And we win another one. Okay, I'm going to leave it like that. I'm going to try and do one of these once a week so we can get a video in. I'm going to mix up the openings a little bit. Try to play some different stuff, keep it a bit fresh, and I hope you're learning from it. I mean, the idea of this speed run is really I'm just going to keep going until I can get my rating as high up as I can. Going to keep the videos to under half an hour, so hopefully they're a bit more digestible then. And really, I'd be very appreciative if you like this video, and please do subscribe to the channel. It does help greatly me continuing to do these free lessons. Bye for now.